Okay, great. So, uh,
Hi,
yeah,
may I say
anyone
something?
feel like sharing any of
Hi,
their what's happened to them or their family or loved ones?
may I say something, please?
Yes, please.
Hi, thank you so much for allowing this to happen. It's so cool. Um, so what happened in our community, we have a neighbor who was in his late 30s, and at the beginning of COVID, when most people should have been on lockdown in Florida, it became super duper lax. And if you went outside, it was like the Twilight Zone because no one followed any precautions.
Uh-huh.
So this young gentleman died of a heart attack.
Oh yeah,
And
so
that was
got
sad.
COVID and died of a heart attack?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Uh,
And another story,
sorry to hear
people who
that.
had, yeah, it's horrible. Then another person who had COVID, was vaccinated, came out of COVID, seemed okay, now has blood cancer.
And blood cancer. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's
all.
the
Thank you.
yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. I see Lisa said she had a massage client whose partner had a mild stroke, and you just lost a 72-year-old woman in your town from a heart attack. Sorry to hear that. And she was a healthy woman, no known conditions. Yeah, see, that's the thing is that, sometimes people do die in their 70s from a heart attack, but these situations seem to be a little unusual, or there's something abnormal about them, whether it is, just totally healthy individuals or very young individuals. I'll share some of mine as well. And I'm also just going to say, I would love to, for all of you to share these stories on your on social media. If you feel inspired, put a hashtag vascular disorder awareness, and and maybe some of the other, just, it's a good thing for people to know what's happening. And I see, Sandy, you got vaccinated, boosted, and then got COVID on New Year's Eve. Yeah, so the vaccine doesn't prevent people from getting COVID. We know that. That natural immunity gives greater protection. And I will touch on COVID just a little bit, even though the main thing that I'll be touching on today is COVID effect on the vascular issues, and really the focusing on the vascular issues themselves, just what to do to take a preventative approach. We're not just victims here, right? So Patricia had some branch retinal vein occlusion and basically an eye stroke. And I've seen that the eyes are highly vascularized, and so they are affected by what happens to the blood. And so uh,
Hey, John.
yeah, so the eyes often get these clots. Yes.
So my son was 33 and he ended up with double pulmonary embolism.
Uh-huh.
And, fortunately they caught it. He was okay. We do have a rare blood clotting disorder. He'd never had a problem, but he was vaccinated. But I also lost my oldest brother at 33, with the same thing many years ago. So it was very scary.
Yeah, I bet.
But they did get him on blood thinners and, he survived and thankfully he's okay. But yeah, you don't know for sure, why it happened, but, it could have been from that. We don't know for sure.
Yep. Yep. Well, Julie's saying one of your clients got COVID and now she has type 1 diabetes. It's important to remember that COVID is not just a respiratory disorder. Many of you may know this, but I just want to say it, that COVID is not just a respiratory disorder. It attacks the blood. And so it dysregulates the blood generally. And so it'll create diabetes and other things. It disrupts iron metabolism. So even as it inflames the lungs and causes poor oxygen absorption, it also attacks red blood cells, disrupting iron metabolism by mimicking hepcidin. And sorry for those technical terms, but I think it's good to just say them. And so it ends up causing a lot of denaturation of hemoglobin. So your blood can't carry the oxygen even if your lungs are fine. So for people who have low vitality, generally, they suffer greatly from COVID because it directly attacks vitality at 2 points of oxygen absorption and oxygen transport, right? And this is all happening in the circulatory system, right? So the circulatory system transports many things, but on some level, right, it's trying to get oxygen everywhere, and so COVID disrupts that, and in that sense, it disrupts vitality everywhere, and so we're not surprised to find disorders associated with low vitality, particularly circulatory issues. So we don't necessarily even need this biochemical pathway for how COVID, creates a clot. We just know that it lowers vitality, and when vitality is low, circulation becomes poor, and then you can get blood stagnation and clotting, right? So, and we'll try to explain it in a few different ways, but like I said, the main purpose of today's talk is not as much of an explanation as it's just what to do about it. So at least we can help ourselves. Yeah, so I see people writing in their stories. Take a look at what people are saying. And some of them have a prothrombic gene. And that can get aggravated by COVID. And some of it's just not related to COVID at all, right? I mean, it just happened. These things happen, and we need to know about them. All right, friend with minor heart issues got COVID in 2021. This is Katerina, and ended up in ICU with heart failure. It took many months before he was able to get back on his feet, and thankfully, Katerina, he survived. Yeah, so I'm going to give you some stories from my personal community. My cousin's brother-in-law, just a few weeks ago, suddenly died of a heart attack at 40 years old. No previous health history. Just sitting there eating dinner, no warning sign at all, dropped dead. My friend's husband, a good family friend of ours, her husband got 2 brain clots. Someone just said double pulmonary embolism. This person got 2 brain clots, 45 years old, to sit for 10 hours in surgery, and they only were able to remove 1 clot. He has to go into surgery again for the other one. It's about 2 months to recover from that. Slow speech. First few days, couldn't even walk just because of the inflammation following the brain surgery. This is, highly invasive surgery. Thankfully, he's recovered from the surgery of the first clot mostly, and we'll see when they decide to even take care of the second clot. And again, no health history. A kapha constitution. Now, for those who don't know Ayurveda, we look at constitutions, 3 basic constitutions, very generalized. We get much more specific with the biocharacteristics, but we have 3 basic constitutions: our vata or deficient constitution, our kapha or more congestive excess constitution, and pitta, which is a hot constitution. And so we just generally look at those 3 categories because they're convenient. You can look into it. You can make all kinds of, mystical associations with it if you want. But at the base level, it's just a convenient categories to divide different body types and then find a very appropriate diet or herbs that fit that person's constitution. All right, so you'll hear me refer to that. The kapha constitution, that congestive, excessive constitution that tends towards thick skin, a little bit stockier, kind of body type, they tend to get blood stagnation, and they're most at risk for clots. So my wife is more kapha than me. I'm more the pitta vata, more deficient in heat. But my wife is a little more kapha. She got COVID during pregnancy. It was her 4th pregnancy. She had very little to no vascular issues in her first 3 pregnancies, which were pretty much back to back. And then she got COVID in her 4th pregnancy and just erupted in tons of varicose veins. And by slowly towards the end of her pregnancy, she started to get a handle on it and prevented the progression, but nonetheless, suffered from that. So what's going on there? Varicose vein can cause clots, but it's not exactly a clot. It's more like a relaxing of the blood vessels that then causes them to become distended. So that's a little bit different than a clot. So we'll talk about, we'll just try to get a handle on basically, how to think about these from a natural point of view. We could go deep into biochemistry on this subject. And in our courses, we do go a little bit more deep into biochemistry. But as as at-home folks who need to know how to approach this, we also need a perspective, not just biochemistry. So I'm going to try to give the perspectives mostly today, but I'll talk a little bit about biochemistry as it comes up. Another friend of mine, her sister got a brain clot at 44 years old and died suddenly. This is too young in your 40s to be dying of strokes, brain clots, heart attacks. Obviously, if you have lots of conditions or a particular history, but these weren't smokers. These weren't people who had terrible diets, or who had, there weren't people with diabetes. Although, we don't want our diabetics to die either, right? But these particular individuals had no health complications and dying at 3 people with very severe issues in our community, all in the last year, and their mid-40s. So that is in a way terrible news, and so it should invite us to take some self-protective measures. Now, why now? Why is Joyful Belly giving this talk right now? It's the spring. What happens in the spring? Blood congestion, blood stagnation. Why? The weather's getting warmer. This process starts mid-February and then continues through May, where the heat is causing your body to dump fats into circulation. What do I mean here? That your blood thickens your skin thickens in the fall, building up fats to protect you from the dropping temperatures. And that's why in September, the first cold day, you feel so cold because you don't have the fats built up in your skin yet. But by the time December, January rolls around, your body's well protected against the cold, or better protected against the cold. And that's due to an insulating layer of fats. As the spring comes, your body does the reverse process. It starts releasing those fats, and it releases them into circulation, where your body uses them in a way as calories. So people lose their appetite in the spring, and they feel a little bit more sluggish, especially on warm days. And what happens is those fats thicken the blood. So whenever our blood sugar levels are high, or fats in the blood are high, or protein levels in the blood are high, what happens is that our blood thickens up and becomes harder to circulate. And so in the spring, we tend towards congestive blood disorders, whether it's lymphatic stagnation and puffier skin, whether it is blood stagnation that leads to clotting, or pelvic blood congestion that can lead to heavier menstruation, or whether it is just general poor circulation. This is the time of year where it gets aggravated. So before it gets too aggravated, it made sense to me to give a talk about this. We don't want anyone else, suffering as people in my community have suffered. And I will say, just as a caveat for this whole discussion, we're talking about serious medical issues here, right? So and a lot of the information I'm going to give you today is not FDA approved. So I'm going to just tell you, you have to do the research. You have to, check and see whether this is appropriate for you. You know what medications you're on, and ask your doctor. And use whatever resources you have. I'm going to try to point you towards some strategies that herbalists, Ayurveda practitioners, and even some TCM practitioners, traditional Chinese medicine practitioners, use for these issues. But I'm going to say that you know, we part of the beauty of Ayurveda is that we all take personal responsibility for our health. And you know that, and as a practitioner, I get to be humble. I don't just say, oh, take these 2 pills and then you'll be healed. No, I say these are the effects, and we study, we learn about them, we participate, we share, and many people get benefits from it. So with that humility in mind, we can begin. I want to say that, you know, I asked I asked the Microsoft artificial intelligence chatbot today whether COVID vaccines cause clotting, and it said there's no evidence for that. So I've asked that AI bot a lot of questions, like, how do we protect society from artificial intelligence? And it said, I'm not dangerous, right? So, you know, it has all kinds of opinions, those bots. I'm not here to advance a conspiracy theory or anything like that. What I am here to say is that a remarkable number of vascular events have happened. It seems like what's changed is COVID and COVID vaccines. Is that the cause? We don't you know, and what's the mechanism of that? Seems like, you know, there's some likely cause there. But the point of today's talk, again, is not to make a claim, but simply to raise awareness and not be shy about that. You know, it's a little easier to be afraid. As I was trying to send out the newsletter email for today's talk, my email tool told me that it would go to everybody's junk mail if I mentioned the word COVID. Right? So what's my liberty? I had to make the email subject. Go look at the subject. It said after the pandemic. I had to change it. I had to remove the word COVID, right? So the information's not out there, but let's you know, let's just you know, put it out there anyway, and do our best with the minimal data we have. If we, you know, if we had access to all the data, we wouldn't need conspiracy theories, right? There was no censorship, we wouldn't need conspiracy theories. But, you know, but there is censorship. So here we are as part of the alternative and sometimes rebellious health and wellness community. And let's see what you know, what we can discover together. I want to also mention today's is my screen, am I sharing my screen? Can you see my screen? Because no, you can't. Hold on 1 second. Let me just put there we go. Blood and vascular disorders, strokes, clots, varicose, and even some menstrual issues. A number of people in my community this last year had miscarriages and very heavy menstruation. You know, whether it's from low progesterone will cause heavy menstruation. It'll mimic estrogen dominance that causes heavy menstruation, and low progesterone makes it hard to carry a pregnancy. But this wasn't just one person; so several people this last year were having miscarriages and heavy menstruation. So that is very sad. Also, a loss of life. All right, so today's talk sponsored by the Herbal course at Joyful Belly. We're a school of Ayurveda. We teach multiple courses, fundamentals of Ayurvedic medicine for beginners, the intense Ayurvedic herbalist course that focuses on the clinical pharmacology and use of herbs, a course that will greatly advance your clinical skills in herbalism, and but not a lightweight course. And you know, take it if you dare. It's a great course, but an intense course, and we welcome you into it. If you have prior health and wellness training or medical background, whether you're an Ayurveda trained in Ayurveda or have had some kind of clinical background, whether in health and wellness or medical, please come and join us in that course. Our other course, the Fundamentals of Ayurvedic Medicine, is a 2-year fundamentals course for beginners, also an intense course. All of our courses are intense, but you can come right for the first time into that course. I'll be giving an intro on those courses next week, next Monday at this time. And then we also have for people who want to become a specialist in digestion and Ayurvedic nutrition, you can join us for that 1-year course as well. So anyway, let's get to our talk. I've already said that COVID is not just a respiratory condition, but attacks the blood. So you see, tell me if you didn't notice this, or if you have a friend who has COVID, you can ask them to show you their tongue. About 5 days into COVID, the tongue develops a yellow coating, and that is due to liver inflammation and inflammation generally around the body, which releases bile constituents that are yellow in color, bilirubin, biliverdin, and these constituents are irritating to the whole body. And some people have that naturally. As a Pitta person, I don't have a yellow coating on my tongue, but I naturally a little bit higher in that, and that's what gives Pitta people their sharpness, their analytical nature. And in any case, a few days into COVID, you may notice a yellow coating on the tongue, and so we know that it's affecting the blood and the liver. Liver and blood are closely related. From an Ayurvedic point of view, as soon as I see that yellow coating, and maybe even preemptively, I will start giving hepatoprotectives to protect the liver. Hepatoprotective means liver protective. Hepato means liver. Everybody always loves to come up with fancier vocabulary words than we need, but that's the way it is. So hepatoprotective and anti-inflammatories and alteratives. So alteratives are another herbal action that means regulating blood chemistry, and typically by its action on the liver. So the liver, again, is responsible for so much of the blood chemistry that we're always looking, whenever we're seeing blood dysregulation, we're always looking to strengthen the liver, not just cleanse it. Don't beat your liver to death when it's weak from COVID. We're not just trying to cleanse the liver. Now, if you tend towards a congestive type, kapha type constitution, you can be a little bit more aggressive, but others are going to be a little bit more gentle with their liver, strengthening as well as flushing. And we'll talk about some specific herbs for that in just a little bit. COVID does cause systemic inflammation, and the virus antigen has been tests have showed the virus antigen, meaning particles of the virus, remain in the body even 6 months or more. So especially in people with long COVID, suggesting that there are live viruses still in the body. Or maybe with this mRNA vaccine, that your cells are just still producing these, virus proteins. I mean, I don't know, maybe we'll find out that these mRNA vaccines are the best things ever. But do I want my own cells producing pieces of viruses and then expressing them on the cell membrane? To me, that's like inviting an autoimmune condition. Yeah, let's get your body attacking proteins on your cells that look like COVID. Now, again, I don't want to advance conspiracy theories here. Vaccines have saved a lot of lives. I wish my dad had gotten a vaccine. I think he would be alive today if he did. So I'm not an anti-vaxxer or anything like that. I just think that we need to be humble and not suppress information. And so we know what to do, right? And we know whether it's beneficial or not, and don't have to speculate. All right, so this virus antigen can remain in the blood and in the body for 6 months or more, and that's going to continue creating those microinflammation. Well, what does this inflammation have to do with clotting and vascular issues? For that, we need to just go through a little bit of anatomy and physiology. This is a normal blood vessel on the left here on my screen. And then what happens is the walls of the blood vessels, if there's inflammation, systemic inflammation in the body, as you get with COVID, it creates little injuries on the blood vessel wall. And your body tries to repair those injuries. And in the process of repairing, it deposits plaque. You've heard of plaque formation. You know, in the 80s, it was just like every other, you know, TV commercial that had something to do with high cholesterol and plaque formation and all that, right? So if you were around then, it was always on TV. And what happens is you get inflammation on the inside of your blood vessel walls, and then your body attempts to patch it up by using fatty cholesterol and also some scar tissue, and it tries to replace cells that are dead with other cells, and that's sort of, there's a little bit of vessel remodeling. It's almost like the vessel's rebuilding itself, regenerating, but it doesn't regenerate perfectly. And what happens is between the fatty deposit buildup, the clotting proteins themselves, and and this vessel remodeling and all that, it ends up starting to block and occlude the vessel. Now, another thing that happens is that these chunks of plaque can sometimes break off and become free-flowing clots in the body. So whenever you're getting blood vessel inflammation, whenever you have systemic inflammation in your body, it's causing atherosclerosis, it's called, which is inflammation leading to remodeling and fatty buildup inside the blood vessel that occludes blood flow. All right, so again, let's take this from the top. If we wanted to reverse this process, what are we going to do? We want to reduce fattiness in the blood generally. We want to reduce inflammation in the blood generally. We want to reduce fibrosis, the process of scarring and remodeling generally. So we're looking for antifibrotics. If we're trying to stop atherosclerosis, we're looking for antifibrotics, anti-inflammatories, hypolipidemics. And then for clots, we're also looking for anticoagulants, blood thinners. Right? So I'm building this whole, you know, just sort of vision, right? And so if we can stop the blood vessel inflammation, we can stop the occlusion of the blood vessel, which keeps circulation flowing well, which reduces clots and prevents little pieces of this plaque breaking off for forming clots. All right. So COVID, in addition to systemic inflammation, also induces endothelial activation. Again, endothelial just means the walls of the blood vessel. Right? Here's the article I'm referring to here, just so you think I'm not coming up with this stuff. Article published September of 2020, early on in COVID. So I tend to, you know, I also want to tend to want to look for more recent studies. This was 6-7 months into the pandemic, but that's just what I have for right now without doing an exhaustive search. But here's another one. Microvascular injury in the brains of patients with COVID, talking about how COVID is not attacking nerve cells causing brain fog, but attacking blood vessels causing poor circulation to the brain, and that causing brain fog. So we want to deal with this at the blood vessel level, not the nerve level. It starts to make sense when you think of it that way, right? Why would it be causing brain fog? It's not a nerve disorder. That study in particular said that the virus doesn't even pass the blood-brain barrier. So they didn't find COVID viral loads in the brain. It was something else then that's causing the brain fog. And I'm just going to give you 2 herbs here, by the way. Ginkgo and Centella asiatica, also known as gotu kola. Both great brain tonic herbs. And Centella asiatica, or gotu kola, also known as Brahmi in Ayurveda, is a great vessel tonic. And in general, it It's a vulnerary. It helps repair wounds. Ginkgo is also a brain tonic and a blood thinner and calming the immune system, which we need in COVID, right? What's COVID? COVID is not that it just kills you because it's so strong. It triggers your immune system, and then your immune system overreacts, and then your immune system kills you. Right? It's always hard to fight a war well, right? That's true in all cases, in politics, in the U.S. military, and even in the body. You know, we need our immune system to be sensitive enough to attack disease vigorously, but not so sensitive that it creates inflammation, that it destroys that we destroy ourselves, right? So that's what we're always looking for in the immune system. COVID tends to cause hyperreactivity in the immune system. So we're looking for immune calming herbs like ginkgo. I just want to say the word again, ginkgo. Ginkgo is a pretty neutral herb, and it's good for most constitutions. I have gotten into the habit of taking it whenever I'm traveling these days, just because I've had COVID twice now. And it helps to, when you're going to be stagnant for a while, taking a long car trip or in a plane, and especially as you get older, that you have a good circulatory tonic. That, again, if you're on blood thinners, don't take blood thinning herbs. Your aspirin pill is going to help thin your blood. But if you're like me and I'm not on pharmaceuticals, and or my wife who's kapha and prone to clotting because of her kapha constitution, but not on blood thinners, take an herb as you go. Ginkgo being anti-inflammatory, blood thinner, vessel tonic, and brain tonic. So, good herb to think about. 20 to 35% of COVID patients admitted to intensive care, ICU, had arterial or venous embolism, clots. And 70 to 100% of patients who died from COVID-19 had deep venous thrombosis. And that's according to this study that I referenced here. Confirmation of high cumulative incidence of thrombotic complications in critically ill ICU patients. But the AI bot, says it's very rare. So maybe, is this study right? Is the other study right? I don't know. Arterial thrombosis cause stroke or myocardial infarction. Myocardial infarction is a fancy word for heart attack. Stroke or heart attack in 4% of patients with COVID-19 in intensive care units. All right, so I talked about how inflammation can cause blood stagnation, which then causes clots by occluding blood flow in the vessel, and then also it breaks off with the plaque. Now, let's look at blood stagnation and poor circulation on its own, just for a minute. Now, it's hard for me to understand what is going on. Why did my wife get all these varicose veins after getting COVID in her last pregnancy? Was it just the pregnancy, or did COVID have something to do with it? I was really grateful for Pranya Rahe, an MD in Arizona, very knowledgeable clinician, and who gave a great talk on ADHD last month at the American Association of Biocharacteristics Clinicians. Pranya Rahe is in Mesa, Arizona, and she forwarded me an article just today on how cytokines can cause varicose veins by triggering vessel remodeling. Remember that regenerative process I talked about a few minutes ago? And that remodeling eventually causes loss of vessel tone and then the distension that you see in varicose veins. So does COVID cause the lack of venous tone, and then because the veins are not toned and become distended, blood starts to pool, congest, and become stagnant? That's my wife's experience. even though she's not pregnant anymore, she still can't bend over. She bends over, the blood pools in her head and she feels like her head is throbbing. And by the way, the only thing that relieves that is she's been taking hesperidin. Now, it may not be the only thing that relieves it, but it's the only thing that worked for her. She tried eating the citrus peels, which has rutin, hesperidin, and diaosmin in it. Was someone trying to say something? No, that must have been just someone's mind that was muted. Not muted yet. There we go. But when she took the hesperidin as a nutraceutical on its own, then she can bend over without that distension and throbbing sensation in her head, and also has greatly helped with her varicose veins. All right, so something about COVID causing blood stagnation. Maybe it causes a breakdown of blood vessel tone due to those cytokines that get released. Maybe the lockdown itself. You know, people were sitting on their couch for a year and a half. That causes blood clots, right? It could be, that's why we saw a lot of clotting issues. It's just people weren't exercising. They weren't getting out. Now, I know there was that first caller who said that people were lax in Florida and went out, and then a friend of hers suffered, greatly from catching COVID unawares. To that, I'll say that in the end, I think everyone got COVID anyway. But in her friend's case, he may not have had an opportunity to get a vaccine, even though he was at high risk, and that is a shame. And but the lockdowns. Oh, hold on one second. Where did my screen go? Let's see if I can find it again. Hold on one second. Can you see my screen again? Okay, good. Now, where was I? Maybe the lack of exercise caused the lockdown. Excuse me. The lockdown caused the lack of exercise, which caused the clotting. In any case, let's talk about blood stagnation for a second. I said earlier that high blood sugar, high triglycerides, high fats in the blood, high levels of proteins in the blood make the blood thick, and that causes poor circulation. And that is especially aggravated in the spring. So this time of year, if you are the kind of person who tends towards stagnation, congestion, thick skin, right? Some people have thin skin. If I pinch the skin on the back of my hand, it's pretty thin, right? I don't know if you can see that. But for some people, their skin is thick because they're more kapha. And those people may have more lymphatic congestion and tend towards stagnant blood generally. Those people, if you're losing your appetite this time of year, don't fight it. Don't be like, oh my gosh, I'm getting old. I don't even have an appetite anymore or anything like that. It's natural. You're supposed to lose your appetite this time of year. When you lose your appetite, just go with it. Have a nice cup of tea or something very light. You don't need to go on a strict fast, but have something light. Avoid the fried foods and all that kind of stuff for a few months. And that will get you over the hump so that you don't get a heart attack during heart attack season. Blood stagnation can also come from relaxed blood vessels. So if you're in the heat in the summer, sometimes you'll see people getting swelling of their tissues because their blood vessels are so open, the circulation is not flowing very well. And it's not always happened from heat. But my wife experienced as a relaxation of her blood vessels due to remodeling potentially after COVID, causing those varicose veins. Now she has blood stagnation. So we've got to keep an eye on it. There's an example of what happens. You can see this picture here of these distended veins getting all knotted and twisted because of poor circulation and blood pooling in the leg. Now, if you think about it, when you stand up, the blood vessels in the lower part of the leg are under the weight of all the blood in the legs that's above it. If any of those valves aren't working, it's all the blood that that is up above that point on the leg is bearing down due to gravity on the leg, and that creates increased pressure, which distends the vessel. All right, so I gave some things here that can help restore vessel tone. Horse chestnut and witch hazel are astringent blood thinners. If you thin the blood and astringe, which tightens the blood vessel back up, then you can get that blood moving again. Obviously, we don't want to tighten blood vessels if we're at risk of a heart attack. If you're at risk of a heart attack, you want to open your blood vessels, not tighten them. Just, just throwing out there. You got to think through this stuff. Horse chestnut and witch hazel will tighten up blood vessels and thin the blood, which improves venous circulation. That's helps in varicose veins. And then the citrus peels, which have the rutin, hesperidin, and diosmin in them, which are helpful for various reasons. And if you don't fix your varicose veins or your blood's too stagnant, you can get a deep vein thrombosis, like this leg here on the right. You can see it's swollen, it's red, it's probably warm to the touch and feels warm to the person. But you see the difference between this ankle and that one on the leg. And that can happen through platelet activation, fibrinogen, which is the molecule that, the molecule that makes the clot. All right, good. And finally, I talked a little bit about menstrual issues earlier, that if you have liver pathology, did I say this? I'll say it again. If you have liver pathology, I said blood stagnation causes heavier periods, but also if you have liver pathology, what's the organ that clears hormones from your blood? The liver. If you have liver pathology and your liver's inflamed from COVID or long COVID, or they're just residual inflammation after COVID, then your liver's not going to clear hormones as well if it's weak. And that can cause hormonal imbalance. So just 3 quick herbs for regulating hormones. Vitex, also called chaste tree or monk's pepper. Ashoka is another herb. And both of those are all around hormone regulators. But we also need to deal with the liver. Hepatoprotectives, alteratives, and anti-inflammatories. As I said, we'll get to that. Maybe I should get to it now because I've talked about it twice already. If you're trying to help your liver, which I think is a good place to start generally, if you've had inflammation or bad COVID, and I'm just saying that because I see the yellow on the tongue, and I know that COVID causes a lot of inflammation. Bitters generally flush the liver. It decongests the liver. This time of year, we need liver decongesting. The liver becomes a little fatty this time of year due to the high fat content in the blood. So we want to just flush the liver. Bitters stimulate the liver to produce oily bile and stimulate the gallbladder to eject this oily bile. And that directly reduces fats in the blood and fats in the liver, and it refreshes the liver. Now, if you're a thin, slender person, you don't want to be flushing all the oils out of your blood and out of your body. You want to keep them. So you're going to use something else. Well, you'll use mild bitters for just a mini cleanse. But the kapha types who tend towards congestion are most at risk for clotting. They're going to use the strong bitters. And that's going to be herbs like neem or gentian. Or an herb called the king of bitters, kalmeg. Or how about food, radicchio, broccoli rabe, strong bitters, much less strong, but still decent. red leaf lettuce, dandelion leaves. Dandelion leaves are strong diuretics. You know, the French word for dandelion is pissenlit, which means piss in the bed. It's because it makes you pee. Dandelion comes from also from the French, by the way, dent de lion. You know, like dentures. Well, in French, you don't really say the T. So it's like dent de lion, not dentures of the lion. The tooth of the lion. That's what dandelion means. It's a French word. It comes or an English version of a French word. So dandelions, strong bitter and strong diuretic. Great for those watery, congested kapha types. Endive or endives, also nice and bitter. And then you can also take some aloe vera juice and gel. If you are a more slender person or a pitta person, just get the spring mix. That's enough for you. The spring mix at the grocery store has enough bitter in it for you, just to keep that liver nice and refreshed. By the way, I want to talk about one of my favorite spring tonics, bitter ghee, also called Tikta-Gritta. I just like the way the name sounds in the Ayurvedic Sanskrit. Tikta-Gritta. It's like poetry for herbs. Tikta-Gritta is one of my favorite spring tonics. It has hepatoprotectives and bitters in it. It's in ghee. I've given it to many clients in the spring. It's a particularly great spring liver tonic. All right, if you are a cool constitution, not a hot if you're the kind of person who's not very irritable, not very hot, not very inflamed generally, you can use turmeric. Everyone can use a small amount of turmeric. But if you take too much turmeric, you'll notice throbbing blood vessels in your head because it's hot and invigorating. So if you don't need invigorating, don't take turmeric. But you can take burdock root instead. Burdock root is more cooling and a little more neutral constitutionally, for that matter. Turmeric is hot. So turmeric's great for those cold kapha types or cold vata types, but not for those hot pitta types. Dandelion, as I already mentioned, for watery constitutions. If you have dry skin, dandelion is not your herb. If you're slender, dandelion's probably not your herb either. There are other herbs that are great for you. Licorice root. Licorice root is a moisturizing, hepatoprotective, and wonderful for a person who needs nourishing while they protect their liver. By the way, coconut oil and coconut products generally are nourishing to the liver. So if your liver's too weak, coconut oil is where it's at. Let's look at some hypolipidemic foods to help you get those excess fats out of your blood if you're that congestive type. Artichoke hearts. By the way, you can look at these on Joyful Belly. Take a look. I'm going to click on hypolipidemic. And you see we sorted out by constitution here, all the different options for food. I'm just giving you the tip of the iceberg here. Look on the website, search on hypolipidemic, and then find the one that's right for your constitution. You can if you don't know your constitution, turn to the biocharacteristics. You can you can scroll through dosha or constitution and the biocharacteristics. So if you're a person who needs more lightness, you're going to choose the light hypolipidemics, right? If you're a person who needs more drying, you'll turn to the drying hypolipidemics. Okay, just so you know, you're not limited to what I'm saying here today. Take home the principles and then look on the website and see the one that's good for your constitution. Let's look up hepatoprotectives. I should have www.joyfulbelly. I'm going to put it right in the search up here. Hepatoprotective food and herbs. All right. So here's artichokes are hepatoprotective. So is apple cider vinegar. Dandelion leaves. But you know, we need something a little more supportive maybe. You'll notice, look here, these are all kapha pacifying. You know, what about nourishing? That's going to be our herbs like milk thistle here. Vata people are the ones that are deficient. So milk thistle, nice choice for vata. right? If we want to, we can jump over to taste too. Let's look for our bitter hepatoprotectives. Where are they? Bitter artichoke, dandelion leaves, turmeric. Let's look up herbs. Bitter hepatoprotective herbs. You can see, there's ginkgo. There you go. CalMag. Bitter orange peel. So you can browse those afterwards. Let me just, I'm going to link that here so I can jump to it if I need it. Okay. Yeah, I want these hypolipidemics and diuretics in the general diet section here. Hold on one second. Let me just put that there. Okay, so our hypolipidemic foods, our bitter foods, and yeah, our hepatoprotectives. If you're having menstrual disorders, or general inflammation, start with protecting your liver. See if that doesn't rebalance your hormones. See if that doesn't help ratchet down inflammation. And while you're doing that, if you're that congestive body type, follow a light spring diet, avoiding fried, fatty, sugary foods. Take diuretics like parsley, celery, and asparagus, so you can reduce that water weight, which is going to lower your blood pressure, which is going to improve your circulation. Avoid wheat this time of year. Wheat congests the blood. One of my favorite foods this time of year is beets. Beets are high in nitric oxide, which dilates blood vessels. It actually improves athletic performance. They're a liver decongestant. They're a cholagogue that flushes the liver, just like those bitters. Vinegar, apple cider vinegar, is also a liver decongestant and cholagogue. And garlic, raw garlic, is a vessel tonic, anti-inflammatory, and vasodilator that opens up circulation. In fact, one of my, I have a few favorite recipes for this time of year, and one of them is beet and raw garlic pickle. You take some, chop up some beets, put some raw garlic cloves in there, put a little pinch of cayenne if you really want to spice things up, pour some vinegar over it, maybe 1/3 of the way, or or half the way if you are, if it's, yeah, do half the way because your jar should be filled with the beets and the garlic, and then pour a little water over that to cover it up to the top. Let that sit for 5 days or so, and that'll mellow into a nice beet and raw garlic pickle. That's a great for congestive kapha types this time of year, just to flush things out and keep their circulation moving. Add some parsley and or artichoke to that if you want to increase the diuretic effect and reduce some water weight. Greens, beets, beans, vinegar, and garlic are all on the menu for the spring. In the fall, now I'm not one of these, dietary ascetics who are like always try to push everybody to eat salads for the rest of their life. Look at our articles in the fall. You'll see they're tasty. They are they're luxurious, and because you're trying to build in the fall. But in the spring, we're trying to decongest and cleanse. So we don't want to make the mistake of just eating the same way all year round. Our body needs different things at different times of year. This time of year, our body needs a little bit of a lighter diet, taking your constitution into account. Sour berries, by the way, are a great way to reduce inflammation in the body for all constitutions. It's more gentle than bitter. Bitter strongly flushes the liver. Sours mildly flush the liver. All right, good. So these sour berries, blueberry, cranberry. Cranberry is going to be your diuretic. It's drying. Blueberry is not drying. So you're going to choose that according to your constitution. Raspberries, blackberries, hawthorn berries. Hawthorn berries are one of the top heart tonics. It's a rose family berry, just like these others, but it comes from a tree, a hawthorn tree with thorns on it. Whenever I see a tree with thorns, I always think of the crown of thorns on Jesus' head. And hawthorn berries remind you of that, big thorns on hawthorn berry tree. And hawthorn berry is a vessel tonic, a heart tonic, an anti-inflammatory, antioxidant. So remember your sour berries. You can put all these together. In the morning, sometimes I'll make a blueberry spring green mix smoothie. So I'm starting my day off with an anti-inflammatory, liver flushing, vessel protecting herb formula. And if I really wanted to dilate blood vessels, then I'll put some scallions in there. Scallions dilate the blood vessels around the heart. And if I don't need that, my wife doesn't need it, then we're not going to put the scallions in there. We're going to put something else, horse chestnut or something into her formula, or witch hazel to tone up her vessels. This is not a one-size-fits-all formula. That's what makes Ayurveda different, is we find that what works for each individual person. It makes Ayurveda very personal, beautiful, and I believe more effective. All right. What about some anticoagulants? If you are having blood clots, Dong Quai, and the species name is Angelica sinensis. Great, hot, invigorating, stimulating, carrot family herb. Just think of like horseradish or something when you think of Dong Quai. Now, in Dong Quai, it's not exactly like a horse. Excuse me, carrot family. Horseradish is mustard family. What am I thinking of here? Spicy member of the carrot family, like celery seed, ajwain, but ajwain, not everybody knows that. But it's a very peppery herb. So just when you Dong Quai, Angelica, think peppery, invigorating, stimulating. It's also a blood thinner. Now, some people want to do a cooling, nutritive blood thinner, not a hot, stimulating blood thinner. So that would be, Gakshora and Kudzu are herbs that thin the blood but are nutritive in nature. Let's see if we got any others here. I'm going to just click on the link of our anti-platelet, anticoagulant herbs. Let's see what we got here that's pitta pacifying. Cleavers, another nutritive, and ginkgo and hawthornberry. Great. These are both anticoagulants for your pitta types. If you're very inflamed and you're trying to reduce inflammation, try these more cooling herbs. One of my favorite anticoagulants is nattokinase. Have you ever heard of natto? Now, natto is a little bit like soy in that it's a fermented bean. It's not from China, it's from Japan. But here's the thing about natto. It's not just fermented like tofu. They ferment it and it turns into like beans with slime. Now I have to say, I tried this on my whole family because, we've got to just try everything. That's what our parents told us when we were kids, is you got to try it at least once. But I tell you, we're not going to try it again. Natto is, in Japan, the kids love it. It's like their chicken soup. So when you get sick, that's what mom gives you. but I didn't grow up there, so I couldn't turn the corner and get to natto. I tried, and so I have to appreciate it from afar. And maybe one day, after, sometimes if you try something 10 or 12 times, it grows on you. But these bacteria that ferment the natto produce anticoagulants that are quite potent, actually. And so you can check that out. Nattokinase is a nutraceutical that can help as an anticoagulant. Aspirin. I want to just say that aspirin is not terrible. We try to stay away from pharmaceuticals, but not every pharmaceutical has huge amounts of side effects. And aspirin's one of those that just doesn't seem that terrible. So I don't want to like throw out, just because it's a pharmaceutical, that there are options for reducing clots in pharmaceuticals. We're alternative medicine practitioners doesn't mean we're against Western medicine. I may be against censorship, but I'm not against Western medicine. And I just want to keep that in check, so that anyone doesn't think that it's I like to take the best of everything, not look at what's the worst part and reject it entirely. Does that make sense? Just, I don't know. Okay, so vessel tonics. I've talked about some Schisandra, another great anticoagulant that reduces clotting, but also just very neutral. So Schisandra, ginkgo, aspirin, kind of neutral. Your cool nutritive herbs for that are more anticoagulant: cleavers, gakshora, kudzu, and then your hot invigorating ones: turmeric, dong quai. And check out others on the anticoagulant page on Joyful Belly. Then your vessel tonics. We want to heal those blood vessels so that they don't cause clots. So your vessel tonic herbs tend to be wound healers. Also, your vulneraries, but there's some great ones listed here. Brahmi, Gotukola, or Centella asiatica, I mentioned already. Motherwort is another good one. Motherwort's a great heart tonic. They call it motherwort, and it does have some uses in the reproductive tract, but it would be nice if it was called like antispasmodic heartwort or something, because a lot of times it gets used as a heart tonic and an antispasmodic at that. So a relaxing, de-stressing vessel tonic herb, nice for the heart. Bringaraj is one of my favorite. I think of Bringaraj as a very bright bitter. Turmeric brightens up the person, makes their skin glow. If you're not already overheated, turmeric, even mothers will take it while pregnant and while breastfeeding to give the baby glowing skin in India. Well, now, Bringaraj is a more bitter version, a more bitter version. I wouldn't say it's a version of turmeric. It has some similar properties to turmeric, but it just gives a person a brightness and a glow, and it's a nice blood builder. So I think it's on the menu here. It's a vessel tonic as well. Yarrow. Let's not overlook yarrow, one of the top Western herbs. So important. All right. So our students in our herb course, as you can see, we're not just learning Ayurvedic herbs that are hard to find here. Our students are learning how to apply Ayurveda to Western herbalism and global herbalism, because all these herbs are from all different countries here. Ginkgo is from Chinese medicine. And we can go around the globe with some of these herbs. But we're using the accessible Ayurvedic herbs, Western herbs, and TCM herbs, global herbalism in our course. So yeah, vessel tonics, generally all those sour berries I mentioned before, which a lot of these are rose family. Look at them all. We talked about hawthorn berries, rose hips, cherries, blueberries, cranberries. Cranberries are not, cranberries and blueberries are not rose family. Those are Ericaceae family. But cherries and rose hips and hawthorn are rose family berries. So are raspberries and blackberries. And then you have these holly or ericaceae family herbs. So rose hips, cherries, blackberries, raspberries. Very high in antioxidants. Acai, by the way, acai is not rose family. That's actually in the palm family, like a palm tree. Awesome. Dates are also in that family too. Coconuts, dates, and acai berries. Great antioxidants. Great vessel tonics. High in flavonoids. If you want a vessel tonic, eat the rainbow. Flavonoids in general are antioxidant and anti-inflammatory, and they're vessel tonics. Now, when you have COVID, all your antioxidant store gets used up due to the tremendous inflammation in your body. So liver is responsible for producing antioxidants. The liver gets tired, exhausted, and just can't keep up. So when you have COVID and after you have COVID, and as long as you have inflammation in your body, you want to replenish those antioxidants with your flavonoids, and a lot of those berries are very high in flavonoids. The more colorful it is, generally, the more flavonoids. But also, let's not forget polysaccharides, like is in reishi mushrooms. Reishi mushrooms also protect the vessels. A few other good herbs here. Red sage. It's an herb that I have been studying more lately. Red sage, great vessel tonic. Your two great heart tonics, Arjuna and Hawthorn. Now, I'm going to tell you a little personal story. For the past 2 years, I have had chest pains in the heart area. I went to a cardiologist, and they said my heart's fine. I got the radioactive dye, and they said, I was all clear, but I still had the angina. So I took, and chest pain is generally a sign that your heart is cramping due to poor oxygen delivery to the heart. It's a sign of an impending heart attack. It's a little scary. So I started taking Arjuna, which I think is the best heart tonic. Hawthorn's awesome. Arjuna, I think, is the best. And it dilates those coronary vessels. I took Arjuna, and it was greatly helpful to me. And in another time, I will share with you that it was actually a spiritual healing that totally healed my heart, my chest pain. I was just immediately and totally healed by that, and it never came back. And it was a spiritual healing. If you're at all interested in that, I invite you to get in touch with me. I'm only too happy to share it. But let's not neglect our spiritual life when we are considering heart issues. So I experienced that miraculous healing. Let's not overlook what God can do for us. Okay. Essential fatty. So Arjuna did help me a lot, but the big guy upstairs brought it home. And essential fatty acids, also good for the heart. Essential fatty acids and fried fatty food are not the same. So essential fatty acids, good for the heart. Fried foods, not good for the heart. Green tea, a very accessible beverage that has lots of anti-inflammatories, lots of known benefits for the cardiovascular system. So, and energizing, again, for those kapha types. We don't energize vata types, by the way. Vata types feel exhausted, so they're pumping in the coffee every day. But vata types are tired due to deficiency. You don't stimulate when you're deficient. You nourish when you're deficient. Don't make it worse by getting the short-term stimulation. But if you're a kapha person, your tiredness comes from sluggish circulation and actually adrenal insufficiency in many cases. So what you want to do is stimulate kapha, and green tea can do that nicely. But don't stimulate, don't be taking caffeine every day if you're vata. Instead, nourish your endocrine system. There's some great herbs for that, and you will have an authentic vigor. And if you're a little tired, take a nap. It's true. A lot of people need a nap. Take a blood builder as well. Something to build up your red blood cells. Ashwagandha is a great blood builder and also anxiety reducing, energizing herb. So just think about that. So you're not addicted to caffeine when you're already deficient. How about a neutral anti-inflammatory like calendula or hawthorn for any constitution? Lots of great anti-inflammatories. You can just look on Joyful Belly. A moisturizing anti-inflammatory, licorice root. So many herbs are anti-inflammatory. Cayenne pepper. It's like if you rub it on your skin gets red, right? So you're like, oh, this must be an inflammatory herb. No, it's crazy, but it's an actually anti-inflammatory herb. So, we expect the unexpected when it comes to herbs. Immune calming. I don't want to overlook this because COVID causes hyperactivity of the immune system. So we need to know our immune calming herbs. Baikal skullcap, butterbur. Butterbur is a great immune calming herb, but it's hepatotoxic. Don't take it when you have COVID or if you have a very strong liver, but you have immune reactivity, you can take it for short term only. Ginkgo is, I've mentioned it several times. You know, if you leave here today with like 1 or 2 or 3 herbs floating around in there, I would just say like, remember hawthorn and ginkgo, and take it when you travel. Remember Arjuna if you have a heart attack. Remember bitters if you are trying to decongest your body for the spring. And remember, yeah, that's probably even, garlic, another great one for the circulatory system. If you're not an inflamed kind of person, garlic is an anti-inflammatory, but if you're like a hot pitta type, it's just too much. All right, your diuretics can help reduce blood pressure. Indian snake root, also called sarpaganda, which literally means snake root, is because of the way the root sort of snakes through the ground. It's a relaxing but hot and invigorating herb that helps blood pressure due to kapha type anxiety. And any of your more relaxing herbs will tend to reduce blood pressure for vata type anxiety. For pitta, if heat and anger and irritability is causing your blood pressure, reduce your blood pressure with bitters. All right, I think we're good. I think we're good here. I just want to end this by talking about just a few things here. One of them, laxatives. It's always a good idea to gently cleanse. If you're a deficient type person, make sure you're nourishing your body in your meals while you're cleansing. Not that you just make yourself deficient. I have people all the time that come to my clinic after cleansing too much, and then they hurt themselves. So it's not just like cleansing is great for everybody. For vata, very mild cleanses, and making sure you're nourishing yourself. So aloe and triphala for your kapha types. Haritaki, which is one of the ingredients in triphala, but it's but it's not an irritating ingredient. Haritaki for vata individuals and Bhumi Amalaki for pitta are your nice laxatives that'll just keep things moving and get those toxins out, which can help your circulatory system. Don't overlook that. Remember I said in the beginning, if you can take care of your liver and clean your bowels, then see where your symptoms are at. Because most things may resolve. If you're eating appropriately for the season and your liver's good and your bowels are clean, you are probably going to be feeling better. And if that doesn't do the trick, then look for your blood thinners and all the other things that we mentioned. I want to thank all of you for coming to today. Next week at the same time, come to the course intro, get a $950 discount to registration for any of our certification courses for future Ayurveda professionals. And I want to thank all of you for coming today. It is really my great pleasure to to get to talk to all of you here today. I am concerned by the level of blood disorders, vascular disorders, death, and severe morbidity that I've seen due to vascular issues in the last 2 years. And so, it's personal. And, my wife, even my own chest pain, and people in my community that have died. So let's keep our heads on straight, do what we need to do to stay healthy, and, and not forget that, to take advantage of spiritual healing as well. So that, we can heal our heart on every angle, not just one. So I look forward to seeing you next week if you want to join. And I'm happy to take some questions as well. Thank you again, everyone. Every person who shows up to learn about health does a great thing for themselves and for their community. It's not just disease that's contagious, it's health that's contagious. When people see that you're healthy, they become inspired. So, let's look to that. I haven't looked at the chat in a while. Let me see. Got some chats here. All right, I will be giving you a recording. I'll put that. I'll put that on my YouTube channel. It should be there in the next 24 hours. I won't be giving a copy of the slides, but you'll be able to see what's on them from the video. So hopefully that is helpful. And I will talk about my spiritual healing. If anyone wants to stay on the call, I'm happy to say it. But since that wasn't the direct topic of tonight's call, I'll let people go beforehand. But I will share that. If you hang on for a little bit, I'll take some herb questions and stuff first. Oh, someone's saying Jimmy Carter entered hospice. Well, speaking of spiritual healings, let's remember to pray for him, and that he does well, that he recovers, or that he is taken up into the Lord. All right. Let's see here. I'm looking to see if there's questions on here. Thank you all for your nice comments. Okay, I see someone saying natto is delicious. Great, good. I'm glad to be contradicted on that. Because and someday I will get to that sentimental Japanese children relationship with natto. I'll have to try. Like I said, if I try it 10 times, maybe I will be able to appreciate it. I haven't gotten there yet. Yeah, look at this: kale, cherry, strawberry, blueberry with ginger, turmeric, and flaxseed. Add a little honey for sweetness. Sounds like a great smoothie. Yeah, put some flaxseed oil into your smoothies. Can everyone take hawthorn? Now, every herb has contraindications, but hawthorn is relatively neutral. It's a bit of a diuretic. It can dry a person out. So if a Vata person's taking it, they need to drink a little bit more. Need to drink a little bit more fluids with it, or maybe even a pinch of salt with it or something like that. Now, this is very interesting. Someone's telling me in Mongolian medicine, we don't use garlic for people with liver and gallbladder disease. It may increase clots. Now that goes contrary to what I've learned, but herbs are full of contradictions in many cases, and we choose it. We fit it to the person. And so I would love to hear more. Please share more about the Mongolian medicine perspective on garlic. How do they classify garlic generally? And yeah, I'm interested to hear more about that. So, for example, in Chinese medicine, they call diarrhea a cold condition and Ayurveda a heat condition. And this looks like a contradiction, but it's not. When Chinese medicine is referring to cold diarrhea, they're referring to a person whose digestion is so weak that they have loose stools and can't digest food. In Ayurveda, when we talk about diarrhea, we're referring to inflammation that's causing loose stools. Both of those can be a cause of diarrhea. Seems like a contradiction, but isn't. And that is the kind of level of detail we've got to get to in our global medicine paradigm So I would love to know Mongolia's perspective on garlic. So yeah, spring mix is a mixed greens that you can get at the grocery store. Often baby spinach, baby kale might be in there. You might see some baby romaine lettuce and baby red leaf lettuce in there as well. If you don't have that in your area, those are the species. It's just mild bitters. Now, I would say coffee is a bitter, right? But coffee irritates the liver. So not quite appropriate if you have inflammation or liver issues. Breast cysts. Cysts can be associated with estrogen dominance. And so that's going to go along with that heavy menstruation, Sharon, along with that heavy menstruation, estrogen dominance, low progesterone, and blood congestion. Cysts in general are considered congestive. I assume you're talking about breast lumps. Now, breast cysts, I have to say, I don't know much about cysts, but if you're talking about lumps, that is more estrogen dominance kinds of things. Fibroids, same thing, estrogen dominance. Don Quai, etc. So consult. Someone's asking about a consult. If you contact our clinic, you can just contact study@joyfulbelly.com. That will let the support staff know you're looking for a consultation. And what I do for consultations is you will meet with a graduate from our school for 2 appointments. I will meet you on the 3rd appointment with the graduate, and that way you get a team of people that are involved in this. And so that's how you can get a consultation, Bethany. Will nattokinase do the same thing as a supplement? It depends on the supplement. I mean, I think nattokinase is a supplement made from that natto. Laura, you were asking a question about Guducci, but I just don't see where it is, and I may not be able to find it if I scroll up, but I will try.
Yes.
Rose
May I
products
ask you
from
quickly?
oil-producing varieties like Rosa Damascene for heart conditions. You tell us. It sounds like you know a little bit about Rosa Damascene, and I've heard of that. I've ran across it as good for circulation. It's not a particular herb that I know a lot about. So it sounds like you might know some stuff about it, actually. So please tell us more. Deglycerized licorice root on Vata with high BP. Yeah, so that deglycerized, so licorice can increase blood pressure because of its effect on the renin, aldosterone, angiotensin system. It acts as an anti-diuretic, which is interesting actually because it acts as a diuretic when you take it, but more long-term an anti-diuretic. So one thing I'm going to say, Liz, is that there's always many, many options when it comes to herbs. So we can look at 10 different replacements of that herb. So if there's any question about a particular herb, just find a different herb. You're not limited to just one thing. That's just what I want to say there. And I also want to say that if herbs have a side effect, it's magnified like 10 times in the media compared to a pharmaceutical side effect. Like you hear about, oh, licorice root can increase blood pressure. Look up how many people have died from that compared to how many people have died from the blood pressure meds themselves. And you will see, that will be enlightening because there's always a lot of hullabaloo about the dangers of herbs when very, very few actual significant morbidity. Guducci for varicose veins after COVID. How long should we take it? Okay. So Guducci is a hepatoprotective bitter and an immune calming herb. I don't immediately jump to Guducci for varicose veins. I look for astringent blood thinners for that. So Guducci, though, is an alterative, and as an alterative and hepatoprotective, it can reduce pitta generally, which can reduce vasodilation. So I would consider that to be a supportive herb in varicose veins. How long should you take it? I don't think Guducci is a very harsh herb, so I don't have immediate, problems with someone taking it for a while. But just in general, I'll say this: we don't want to rely on herbs for healing. We want them to push us in the right direction. So every 3 months that you're taking herb formula, you take off a month. And for a lot of herb formulas, I might even take it for 5 days and skip 2 days or something like that. But some herbs, you do need to take them for a long time for them to have an effect, especially the hormone and endocrine nourishing herbs. They need to be taken for a while. So you have to look at the herbs themselves. How much ginkgo do you suggest? Well, I'm a very medium to slender constitution, and I will chew about, I don't know, 2 teaspoons of the herb at a time. I mean, make a tea with it. I just chew it. Maybe that's personal laziness, but I don't mind the taste. I actually like to get the fullness of the herb and the taste of it, so I just chew it. But and then I spit out what's left after the flavor disappears. But how much ginkgo do I suggest? And a good source, I think Mountain Rose. Well, they have a shipping problem at Mountain Rose. You order something, it arrives a month later. You know, with a heart condition, you can be dead by then. So, so that always drives me crazy. They have good quality herbs, but a long time to ship. So, what can I say? Bain Botanicals does good for Ayurveda single herbs. But I like the quality of Mountain Rose herbs. That's where I order from. So ginkgo. Yeah, so I'll take 2 teaspoons. A kapha person might bump that up to a tablespoon, and a pure vata person might bump that down to a single teaspoon. But vata people tend not to have clotting issues. Their blood is more thin. But it depends on time of life and your particular circumstances. So yeah, teaspoon for vata, 2 teaspoons for pitta, maybe a tablespoon for kapha. Any other questions? You have the same heart issues as me, but many tests and nothing. I know, it's scary. So there are gold standard tests, which I didn't take, but there's another level up from just putting the radioactive dye in your arm, where they insert a catheter into the artery of your leg and actually release the dye into various blood vessels in your heart. If you are seriously concerned and you're getting the shooting pains down the arms or in the neck or in the jaw, and or if you're unable to exercise. Now I can like run for 10 minutes and my heart is okay. But I did fail a stress test when I took it. I failed the stress test, but then the radioactive dye thing I passed. But the doctor, just looking at history and everything else, said that and looking at the radioactive test and just the condition generally of my heart, he believed that the reason why I failed it was a congenital heart issue, not due to issues with atherosclerosis or impending heart attack. So keep our fingers crossed, right? So yeah. Laura says, Vata Pitta with signs of liver stagnation. I find strong bitters to be too aggravating, but gentle liver tonics don't touch my stagnation. So you balance them out. Put a small bit of that strong bitter, or take a more mild bitter, like red leaf lettuce is like halfway between radicchio and iceberg lettuce. I mean, iceberg lettuce is a joke. It's basically dessert, but a green dessert. So red leaf lettuce might be the in between for you. Or you can go with sours. Sours with a little bit of bitter, coconut oil, some applesauce, and a little bit of red leaf lettuce or something like that may do the trick. Take a little bit of lemon. Some of those may work. Milk thistle seeds, grinding the milk thistle seeds and sprinkle small amounts on food. Yeah, you can make like a little spice blend with milk thistle seeds. Do I consult with people from Canada? All my consults are online. I consult with people all over the world.
Hey, John. John.
All right. Any other questions?
John.
So I promised I would share my spiritual healing with you. And so I will. I was
John?
I
Hello?
had a profound experience that success in life, now I've always known this, but you can know something intellectually, but this is the difference between grace and knowing, okay? I knew for my whole life that success is not running a great Ayurveda school or a great Ayurveda clinic or a successful company or studying really hard and being really smart. These are all areas that I've worked really hard to develop myself. And I know that none of those are most important. That, that God comes first and my family right after that, my wife, my children, and that, life is about being in relationship, not about my glory. I know all of those things. I've known those things for a very long time. And, but I can tell you, I had a very profound experience of success being the face of Jesus Christ and none of those things. I experienced that. And we know he's love. One of the things I love about my faith is that my God is a person, a human being that I can love and that loves me and that he knows me. And I had a profound experience of that love and of his love and knowing that he was the object of my life, not these other things. And it happened. I went to my mom was here visiting us and she bought tickets to see The Chosen. If you haven't seen The Chosen yet, you got to see it. It's binge watching Jesus at its best. It's great. Very inspiring. Brings it to life, brings him to life, brings life to life. And we were at the movies and we were watching. It was this is 2 weeks ago, by the way. This is very recent. And my chest had been hurting me. And I was watching, it was when Peter stepped out of the boat and he was walking towards Jesus on the water. And I don't know, I was crying just from the scene. But I had a profound experience that success was him, the face of the Most High, of love itself. And my heart did this thing like, blah, 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 blah. I don't know how to explain it, but it was like jumping around in my chest. And then it just went away. It was gone. My chest pain was gone. My throbbing heart was gone. And I felt a peace. And it went into my eyes. My whole, everything became different. I don't know how to explain it. It was a deliverance. Something was attached to me and it was cast out. And it was a miracle. It was a miraculous thing. And, I'm still working hard. Today I worked really hard for this talk today because I'm afraid for people to suffer and lose the ones they love. And I don't want to die. I'm happy to die and meet my maker. But I also want to, I also love my kids and my wife and they need me. So I'm still working hard. But I don't feel oppressed by the work in the same way. And I can tell you, it's not the first time I've had a spiritual healing. A few years ago, I was reading Joseph Pieper's book on faith, hope, love. Amazing, amazing book. And I got through the chapter on love. And suddenly, I had a realization about hope. If there's anything about Jesus Christ, is that he's the God of hope. And I learned what hope was, what real hope was from that book. It's not an easy read, by the way, but it's not unnecessarily difficult. He's not one of those intellectuals that makes things difficult on purpose so that they sound smart. It's just deep. And I read his book and I had gray skin before that. And after that, my skin was glowing and I had like tons of extra energy. It was awesome. Faith, Hope, Love by Joseph Pieper. Anyway, you can watch The Chosen. It's a phenomenon. It's free. Go to Angel Studios. It has something in there for everybody. I'm telling you, you would love it.
Can I ask a quick question?
Anyway, God bless you all. And I want to thank you for being here today. Go heal your communities. And take care of yourself.
Can you hear me?
I'll see you soon. Maybe next week.
You can't hear us. Okay, bye.
Someone's trying to ask a question? Yeah, type it in. Or someone else type it in if you can hear it. I'm still here. Yeah, you might be muted or something. The YouTube channel link. I don't know, if you go to YouTube and just search on Joyful Belly, you'll find it. I think it's just youtube.com/joyfulbelly. It's my headphones. Can I not hear you? My headphones out. How about now? Oh, everyone could hear except for me. Okay. Well, I still can't hear for some reason.
Can you hear me, John?
Now I can. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, it was your headphones. I have the same headphones, and when I have them on, I can't hear what's coming at me. I have to take them off to hear.
Okay, yeah, so what's your question?
It wasn't me. I don't know if they left.
Oh, but can you repeat the question?
I don't recall.
Okay, all right.
I'm sorry.
We'll ask it next week if you're still on and you can't, or hope maybe they'll come next week and we'll hear it then.
John,
Yes.
it's Lisa.
Hi, Lisa.
Thanks for sharing, because I've been studying a lot about with Ashley Turner through Yoga Psychic Soul, about the spiritual emotional connection and the impacts on the body, whether you want to call it chakras or the energy system, and then tying everything I learned from you with the Ayurvedic herbs and foods and all of that is just so powerful. And part of a sequence that I'm writing called The Armor of God, a daily application, and how to attach yoga and more of that deeper spiritual healing to the armor every day. Just really keeping our focus on Christ. And so thank you for sharing that.
Oh, you're welcome, Lisa.
I echo your chest pain, even though mine has not showed up as chest pain. I echo it because it's really about putting what's most important first. And I've been, yeah. We can't just let that be haphazard. Putting the most important thing first. It requires us to attend to that, to study that, to learn that, to reach for it. It is not. It doesn't just come that we are able to put the most important thing first. It's something that we have to, we have to give ourselves over to it. I was having literally like liver pain. It was right underneath my right rib, like just, and so I was doing some of my Ayurvedic herbs and of course watching my food, but it was deeper than that. And it really was an emotional, spiritual healing that had to take place and now is better. So, but yes, I echo what you went through. Yeah, it's amazing. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you. And someone said gratitude plays a big role. Oh yeah. If you don't have gratitude, you get trapped by anything, right? Because you'll be scared of everything.
If you don't already feel like you've been given something wonderful, you're gonna be feeling all the time that you've got to just grab it. It's not that you got to take it, and you'll be distracted all the time. So Georgina's echoing something really important. Now someone's saying, is tri-doshic foods the way to go through this period? So this period, meaning this season, if you're talking about season, it's going to be a more kapha pacifying diet this season, not tri-doshic. So yeah, kapha pacifying. And if you're a Vata person, you're just going to go a little bit more kapha pacifying, not the whole thing. All right, everybody. Have a great day. Take care.